Rwanda aspired to become a leading ICT hub in Africa by establishing a conducive, innovative ecosystem. And a lot has been achieved, and today we move one step closer. KIC is a flagship project by the government of Rwanda to transform the country into a Pan-African innovation hub while facilitating the development of Pan-African talent. KIC is being co-developed by Africa 50 and the government of Rwanda through the Rwanda Development Board with active support from the Ministry of ICT and Innovation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to officially kick us off, allow me to invite Eve Dokunda, the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of ICT and Innovation, to the stage.
It's such a pleasure and an honor for me to be joining this very important event. And first of all, I just wanted to give a vote of thanks to everyone who's made it this evening. Dear the CEO of RDB, the head of Africa 50 here present, excellencies, ambassadors, head of organizations here present, once again, welcome to the launch of the KIC master plan. This has been a long journey for many that have been central to the project, that have been involved in the details of putting the master plan together. But today is yet the beginning of what this place is going to look like. Standing here within the ALU campus, particularly for me, brings even more memories because I started coming to the Kigali Innovation City when it was just an open space without even the foundation of the buildings. But in such a short period of time, this master plan is already anchored by these nice facilities that has been put together by the ALU as an institution. So I'm so glad to be hosted in this particular facility that exemplifies what this Kigali Innovation City is going to look like. It's not just the facility, but it's also the talent and the value of the institution and what it represents. So I just wanted to say, to start by appreciating ALU, Africa Leadership University, for hosting us in this particular campus. This is also an opportunity to be reminded what the entrepreneurship ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem in Rwanda needs from all of us, the government and the different partners that will be supporting us to bring the vision of the Kigali Innovation City to life. Just recently, we were celebrating innovation and entrepreneurship in a unique way, where we had the Hunger Pitch Festival. And this brought together a lot of partners. It showed us the talent that we have here in Rwanda. And the Kigali Innovation City is, again, another initiative that I believe will bring further the momentum that is being created through those programs. One of the biggest challenges that we see is the limited funding that should be available to support innovation, that should be able to support startups and grow them and scale them across the continent. The success we have seen can be sustained through this Kigali Innovation City that will be put together to make sure that the startup and the innovations that will be born will have the right investors, will have the right programming that can nurture them, scale them, and make sure that we can have economically sustained business environment. So seeing the many partners, development partners that are here present as well, seeing the different heads of and captains of industries that are here, particularly in the ICT and technology ecosystem, makes me truly believe that the Kigali Innovation City is going to be a successful project. And I'm excited to see a kind of master plan that creates the right environment for all the partners to come and find the space to use. So I'm particularly excited to see that the project is supported. Your presence speaks volumes towards that idea. So I don't want to take too much of the time. I wanted to briefly appreciate all the efforts and the leadership that has gone into developing the Kigali Innovation City master plan. And on behalf of the Minister of ICT and Innovation, who could not join us this evening, to deliver her message of appreciation and thanks to all the different partners that have made it possible, and to also provide an invitation towards the successful journey that we are embarking on to build a true Kigali Innovation City. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. So I think I'll start with you, Claire. We've just had an overview understanding of what the Kigali Innovation City aims to do. Just do expound on the vision that it has, as well as how it interlinks with Rwanda's strategy.
If you look at Rwanda, 12 million people, small country, we also have to keep innovating how we're going to grow and develop. And I think also developing an innovation city is one of innovating how our economy is going to grow. And we have experience in doing that, in doing this. If you look at the conference tourism that has been affected by COVID-19, it was almost the same approach that we're using for Innovation City. So you have a vision, you want to become a conference hub, then you start to put all the pieces together to create that space. That's exactly what we're doing in the Innovation City. For the conference hub, we started by building facilities for hotels, the convention center, Rwanda, and we built all the services that go with that. The same thing with the Innovation City. Our aspiration is to create a new area where we can drive value for our economy. And so infrastructure, such as the ones that we're in today, the whole ecosystem of building that aspiration is something that we're working on today. So as Tessie said, we started with infrastructure, with talent, Carnegie Mellon University, Carnegie Africa Leadership University, where we are. Next is going to be a building that is going to allow big companies that want to set up here. We're hoping that we can attract the likes of Google, Microsoft, IBM, and then innovation hubs, people that have incubators, accelerators to come and set up here. And the whole idea is to attract everything that we need to make this successful, including financing. So that is really what the vision is, and we're hoping to achieve that in the next few years, now that we are already in this place.
Yeah, and Africa 50 has been a strategic partner to Rwanda and also helping achieve some of its infrastructure projects. Just do tell us about the institution and the role that this particular project brings, and the role that Africa 50 has played since the beginning up until this point.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm very pleased to be here today. This is an important milestone for a great project. KIC is really a critical project also for us at Africa 50. And before I start talking about the role that we have in the project, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation first of all, to His Excellency President Kagame and the government for having selected Africa 50 to be a co-developer for this very important project, working closely with Rwanda Development Board and the Ministry of ICT, with my sister now and partner Claire and Minister Paula, and our colleagues, our teams. We work together to move the project to this milestone. And a couple of words about Africa 50. We are a relatively new institution. We are a Pan-African investment platform, which is owned by African countries, 28 so far, including, of course, the Republic of Rwanda. The African Development Bank is one of our shareholders as well, and then 2 African central banks. Basically, our mandate is to help bridge the infrastructure gap in Africa exclusively through private investments and PPPs. And we focus on a few sectors, power, transport, health now, education, fintech, and of course, ICT. And within the ICT space, typically we look at large infrastructure projects in the broadband space, fiber, data centers. But also, we are quite keen to support a project that will build an ecosystem that will help help in the digital transformation in Africa. And this is why we are so excited about KIC, because this is one such project that really will make a big difference, not only in Rwanda, but across the continent, honestly, as you mentioned. So what's our role, the role that we played in KIC? First of all, we started working on the project 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago. We had a joint development agreement signed with RDB with the support of the Ministry of ICT. That was back in August 2019. Essentially defining the cooperation between the Africa 50, between the government of Rwanda and Africa 50. Our role as a co-developer is really to help implement all the activities that will make the project bankable, the project attractive to investors, because at the end of the day, as Claire said, and also I believe Tessie said that, we are here to catalyze, we'll put some money on the table, but we also want to bring additional partners to work with us to deliver this fantastic project. And indeed, what we have done now to help move the first building forward is really for us, RDB, Africa 50, to commit some funds, but also to look for additional financing from others, including development banks, but also local financial institutions. Of course, we are not in a position to mention the names today because we're still discussing, but this is the kind of ecosystem that we'd like to create for us to catalyze, to put some money on the table, but to bring others to support us to deliver this fantastic project. And I'm very happy that we can do so. And Africa 50, what we can also help with is to help leverage our network to bring additional partners within Africa financial communities and globally that will work with us to finish the development, but also the construction and the management of this fantastic project.
Okay, very well put. Even before we get into the funding aspects as well as the future of the project, we are here today for the unveiling of the master plan. Now, Claire, I'd just like to come to you. How important is today's event in the life cycle of KIC?
Well, I think today we turn a new chapter in the development of KIC because the first part was the talent institutions. So we had ALU, CMU. We also expect University of Rwanda to bring some of their centers of excellence here. We have land allocated to them, as well as AIMS, the African Institute of Mathematical Sciences. But beyond that, we need to see the other components of the ecosystem happen. And that's really, as we said, office space for big, large companies to come, IT companies that are global, for incubators, for venture capitalists to come and set up here. So today's unveiling clearly not just allocates that vision in a master plan that we're going to be looking at shortly, but it also is the first step towards getting the second part, which is the first building. So we have this first building that we expect to start construction next year. It's going to be 5,600 square meters. It's going to have a visitor center. It's going to have a space that is going to be used by incubators as well as companies that want to set up. So it's that second part that is really, putting more flesh in the ecosystem beyond the talent. And for me, that's very important because then we are beginning to see the real ecosystem developing.
Yeah.
And of course, with the support of Africa 50, I must say that we very carefully selected our partner in our vision. And it was very important for us to get a partner like Africa 50 because they do two things. One, they bring their network of investors and their exposure, but they're also Pan-African. Kigali Innovation City is not just about supporting innovation in Rwanda, it's about supporting innovation in Africa. Mm-hmm. And so partnering with an organization that has exposure, but also a network throughout the African continent, for us was a lot of value that we picked specifically in Africa 50, and we're very happy to be collaborating.
Yeah, and also ICT is one of the priority areas for Africa 50. Ale, just to come to you, in which areas do you see opportunities and what kind of financing mechanism should be used to attract more funding into that particular area?
Well, thank you, and thank you, Claire. And I must say that the partnership is working well. We complement one another quite well. So just to focus on your question, I think, first of all, there's a lot of opportunities in the ICT space in Africa. I think there's a figure that the World Bank estimated that about $100 billion should be invested in the next 10 years or so to reach universal access to broadband in Africa. And so for us at Africa 50, ICT, of course, is a key sector, a priority sector. We tend to focus on first and medium mile type of project, networks, broadband networks, I think towers, fiber, but we decided that it's also important to focus on helping build those ecosystems, disruptive technologies, because it's quite important. And for us, a project like KIC, as Ray mentioned, really also can help drive this knowledge economy, and they create the knowledge economies here in Rwanda that actually is quite important, because for us on the continent, we need also have some countries that have really top knowledge economies that could actually help the entire continent. So in terms of the type of financing mechanisms that we can do. So PPPs are quite important for this, because to create some of the large-scale infrastructure projects, that requires large financing. The government has a role to play, but we like to say the government should be catalyzing and then enable the private sector to come in. And that's what we do at Africa 50. We know how to structure those PPPs projects, and indeed, KIC is an example of a PPP project that works. We work with the government of Rwanda, Rwanda Development Board, Ministry of ICTs, supported by Ministry of Finance. So we have an allocation of roles. For example, the shared infrastructure is financed with government money, and then other part of the project will be financed with private capital. As the project gets de-risked, we will seek more and more private capital to come in. But we, government first, but also an institution which is owned by the government, by governments with a commercial mandate, we can take those early stage risks, to make sure that we show that this is actually a good project, de-risk it, and then get folks to come in. Final point that I'd like to make in terms of the type of financing mechanism that we are proposing for the ICT space, it's asset recycling, which I talked about quite a bit. It's about sometimes when you have an asset that the government owns, sometimes government would own fiber networks, they can recycle the money which is immobilized in that asset in exchange for receiving funds that they will then invest in further projects that the government will pick and choose. So it's about recycling money that is immobilized in a particular asset, finding a way to unlock that, and then invest that money into new stuff. This is some of the models that we are promoting. But again, in that space, I think we are not reinventing the wheel. What we need to do is to figure out a way to speed up the implementation, because we know how to structure those projects. And if we can bring some support to this space, it's really to make sure that we structure those projects right, so that they're bankable and attract other investors.
Yeah, and Claire, to come to you, I'll just pose the same question to you. We know ICT has grown to become a backbone to Rwanda's economy. So what measures has the Rwanda Development Board put in place to attract more investments into the ICT sector?
Thank you. I think we've talked about talent a lot, but that's very important. And we've been developing partnerships to not just build talent, but also to find jobs for the talent that we're building. Some of the partnerships that we've done, apart from the universities that we've talked about, we've partnered with organizations like Andela in building practical talent development. We've also partnered with companies like Tech Experts from Israel. I see the ambassador of Israel is here. And Tech Experts, for example, is going to employ 1,500 Rwandans in tech-related outsourcing jobs. So we're looking at both sides of the demand and the supply of skills. That's very important, not just as an investment, but also to provide the skills we need for the ICT sector going forward. The second part that we've looked at is also investing in financing. Rwanda Innovation Fund is a fund that we've talked about. We got money from the African Development Bank. It's a fund that is going to start with $30 million. We've launched the first part of the first $15 million with a company also from Israel. I guess that's why the ambassador of Israel is here. But I think the history and the example that Israel has had is one that we're also really partnering with and also learning from. So that's another part, the financing. Apart from the Rwanda Innovation Fund, we're also discussing with private venture capitalists. We've also put in our new investment code a provision for something called the Seed Capital Fund, which is going to be run by the Ministry of ICT and Innovation to really finance new ideas. So funding has been the other part that we've invested in very much. The other one that I can talk about is incentives, so that private capital can also come on its own. We have very new incentives in the new investment code that was launched last year. In the new investment code, we have incentives like we remove capital gains tax for angel investors to encourage them to come and invest in startups. We've removed taxes for some of the developers who want to come and develop ICT parks, for example. We've reduced corporate income tax for ICT-related investments. There's a whole host of incentives that we put in place in form of fiscal incentives. That's again to support this sector to grow. The other one is infrastructure. We keep investing in infrastructure, whether it's fiber optic, whether it's Connect Rwanda program, whether it's infrastructure to also enable these ICT to take place. So these are some of the things that the government continues to do. And in many ways, we also have to keep innovating as government to find the best way to deliver these services and to create an ecosystem that will support innovation. And I must also say that it's not coincidental that the Kigali Innovation City is located here. It's next to the special economic zone. I think we all know the special economic zone that is in the manufacturing sector. The idea is how do we bring technology to support manufacturing, whether it's things like robots in manufacturing or whether it's things like 3D printing, among others. So we're also creating synergies between the manufacturing sector and the special economic zone and the innovation city, both of which are going to drive Rwanda's growth.
Yeah, a lot to come to you now, just bringing it back to the Kigali Innovation City. What are some of the key aspects that make it an attractive investment for private sector players from a financial and a development point of view?
Yeah, but that's an important question, especially for an investor like Africa 50. What we are looking for are projects that have both a high development impact and also have a financial return which is appropriate for the risks which are taken. And those two dimensions are embedded into Kigali Innovation City. In terms of development impact, I think TC mentioned that, Claire also, I think also the PS of the Ministry of ICT. It's really a fantastic project that will create that ecosystem, first of all, to help with the growth of startups. We're going to have a lot more startups because you create that ecosystems. But also, you will drive human capital development. It's already starting, but I think there will be more educational institutions that will be based here in Kigali Innovation City. And that in turn will help in this transformation drive to transform Rwanda into a digital economy. So huge development impact. So you also see the jobs that will be created, because it's important actually, jobs, good jobs that will be created. And some estimate of ICT export that will come out of the Kigali Innovation City. So a lot of good impact. And again, TC mentioned it, the whole project is designed with an environmental friendly, climate change friendly lens, so that we are also, climate friendly, I should say. So a lot of positive impact there. And this is something which is quite attractive to us at Africa 50. But we don't forget the financial return aspect, because this government has decided that they will embrace PPPs. They would make sure that the government doesn't have to do the things that they don't need to do. And that's why in our conversation, actually, we spent quite a bit of time together with RDB and Ministry of ICT and Africa 50, talking about what would the market accept. We're trying to push the envelope. Sometimes we tell our colleagues, we guys are pushing too much there. But these are the conversations. What will be the market accept? How much should we put on the table for the market, to the private investors to come? These are the right questions. And of course, we want to minimize the government involvement, but we need to size it the right way so that at the end of the day, we can deliver the project. And this is the piece that I really like, because the financial return is also on the table. So we have the combination of both highly developmental project and appropriately priced from a financial return standpoint project that makes for a winning combination that we want to be part of.
Yeah, I'll just pick up from what you said, and as we head towards the end of the conversation, I'll pose these questions to the both of you. Then, how do we drive up and attract more investors to come into the KIC? As you say, the private sector have to play a key role into even the fulfilling the vision for this particular innovation hub. I'll start with you, Alain.
Yeah, I'd like to take that question. First of all, I get asked that question a lot, not only here in Rwanda, in global for us. How do we attract private investment into large-scale infrastructure project? Honestly, it has to start with the government vision. The government has to create an enabling environment which is conducive to attracting private investments. And the government has to be committed to attracting those investors, because the investors have many options. So the government has to create the conditions for those investors to come in and show some willingness to do so. And folks in the government also have to understand what actually drives the private investors. And I believe that in this country, under the great leadership of His Excellency President Kagame, the vision is clear, and he has a government which is implementing it. And then the people in the government and in government agencies that understand these dynamics and are able to deliver those projects. So that makes our job easier, I should say, even though delivering a large-scale infrastructure project is not easy, but it's easier when you have this environment which is so conducive. So I'd like to thank also my partners, Claire, Minister Paula, and their teams, because the way you're conducting those discussions gives confidence to investors that actually you want a successful implementation of the project where you have a balanced approach to risk and returns and risk allocation. And this is what actually makes those investments attractive. So this is what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you so much. And Claire, to come to you, how do we drive and attract more investors into this space?
Thank you. Building on what Alea said, for us it's two levels. The first level is the general actions that we put in place to make Rwanda attractive for investments. And then the second one is the specific things that we do, when we're dealing and negotiating with investors. On the first part, I think we've talked a lot, and Alea did touch on that. Today, Rwanda is the second easiest place to do business in Rwanda. That is a lot of work that led us to get there. We're very competitive. We are ranking among the easiest places for investors to trust their money with. So that's the first point. Secondly, we also continuously put in place the infrastructure, as we've said, fiber optic, broadband, investing in talent. All that is something we're doing at the general aspect of making Rwanda attractive for investors. But we know that's not enough. We also do specific engagement with investors, especially as RDB. We go out, we do roadshows, we engage investors, and we even discuss specifically, when we're sitting with Africa 50, we won't tell them just come and invest because we have the environment. We listen to them, what do you need? And we try to respond specifically to what investors need. A lot of times we spend time structuring, negotiating, putting in place the right incentives for a specific investor, even at the level of the investor themselves, and that's really to make investments happen. At the end of the day, our estimate is that Kigali Innovation City will create exports up to the tune of $150 million. That's our goal. And we expect Kigali Innovation City to attract investments of up to $300 million. That's the assessment we've done, and that's the work that is cut out for us, for this to really contribute to the economic development that we want. And maybe I'll just end by, I see a lot of potential partners in the room. I see embassies, I see international organizations like UNDP, World Bank, ITU, among others. I think there's space for all partners, international organizations, bilateral partners, private investments to make Kigali Innovation City a success. And I'm looking forward to engaging all of you in your respective areas to make this a reality.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And also, we are in the times that we are in presently, COVID-19 has accelerated adoption of technology. There is demand, and KIC just comes right on time. Yeah. So thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you so much, Claire Kamanzi, the CEO of RDB. I'd also like to thank Ala Ebobise, the CEO of Africa 50. Could we give them a round of applause?